Remarrying after the age of 70 may seem like a personal or emotional decision, but it carries significant financial implications, many of which can threaten your retirement stability. Senior life experts frequently caution older adults that entering a new marriage at this stage can complicate carefully planned financial strategies and reduce long-term security. Most individuals over 70 have already established a structured retirement income that may include Social Security, pensions, investment portfolios, or annuities. These income streams are typically based on prior life choices, including previous marriages. When you remarry, the legal and financial framework changes, potentially altering your access to some of these benefits. For instance, remarrying can result in the loss of a deceased spouse's Social Security survivor benefits, which might have been a key part of your financial planning. Furthermore, remarriage can create obligations under marital property laws. In many jurisdictions, once you marry, you may be responsible for your new spouse's debts or financial commitments, even if they were acquired before your relationship began. This can put your savings, assets, and credit at risk. Additionally, assets that were once earmarked for children or other heirs may now be legally considered shared property, making estate planning far more complex and potentially contentious. Many seniors also fail to consider how marriage can affect long-term care and Medicaid eligibility. If your new spouse has limited income or requires long-term care, your finances might be taken into account when determining eligibility for assistance. This could force you to spend down your assets to qualify, leaving you financially vulnerable in your later years. Blended finances can also introduce challenges with budgeting and money management. Older adults often have different spending habits, investment preferences, or financial priorities. Aligning these in a late-in-life marriage can cause tension and confusion, especially if one partner has medical needs or requires ongoing support from adult children. Legal arrangements such as prenuptial agreements, separate accounts, and updated wills can help mitigate some risks, but many seniors do not take these steps before remarrying, often due to the romantic nature of the decision. Unfortunately, ignoring these safeguards can lead to financial insecurity, family disputes, and unintended consequences. In summary, while love and companionship are valid desires at any age, remarrying after 70 without thorough financial planning can put your retirement at risk. Seniors are encouraged to seek professional, financial, and legal advice before making such a significant commitment. Doing so ensures that the emotional rewards of a relationship don't come at the cost of hard-earned financial stability. For individuals over 70, Social Security benefits often serve as a crucial part of their retirement income. What many don't realize is that remarriage can significantly alter or even eliminate access to certain Social Security benefits, especially those based on a previous spouse's work history. This is a major concern raised by senior life experts, who warn that entering a new marriage later in life without understanding the impact on Social Security can result in unintended financial hardship. One of the most commonly affected benefits is the survivor benefit. If you were married to someone for at least 10 years and they passed away, you may be eligible to receive a survivor benefit based on their earnings record. These benefits are often higher than your own individual retirement benefits, especially if your spouse had a stronger earnings history. However, if you remarry before age 60, you generally lose eligibility for this survivor benefit. Even though this rule changes slightly after age 60 or 50 if you're disabled, the complexities can still affect how much you receive or whether you receive anything at all. Moreover, spousal benefits, which allow you to receive up to 50% of your living spouse's benefit, are also impacted by remarriage. If you were divorced and claiming spousal benefits based on your ex-spouse's record, remarrying disqualifies you from receiving those benefits. That means, upon remarriage, you might be forced to rely solely on your own earnings record, which can be considerably less than what you were receiving before. In addition, remarriage can create delays or confusion in benefit adjustments. For example, switching from spousal benefits to your own benefits or vice versa may come with complications, especially if your new marriage changes the order in which you're eligible to file. Any error in timing or paperwork may cause delays, penalties, or lost income. These changes don't just affect your monthly check, they can have a cascading effect on your retirement budget. Healthcare planning. and overall financial independence. For many seniors, losing even a few $100s a month can mean the difference between staying in their home or having to downsize, between affording medications or skipping them. Furthermore, many seniors remarry without fully discussing or understanding each other's financial backgrounds, leading to unrealistic expectations about combined income. A common misconception is that marriage will increase total household income through pooled Social Security benefits. In reality, this is rarely the case. In fact, combining households may actually reduce overall government support, including housing subsidies, Medicaid, and food assistance programs, due to income thresholds being recalculated. One of the most overlooked but emotionally charged consequences of remarrying after 70 is the increased likelihood of inheritance disputes within blended families. At this stage of life, most individuals have already built a financial legacy, whether modest or substantial. Land may have children, grandchildren, or even great-grandchildren expecting to benefit from it. However, introducing a new spouse into the picture late in life can disrupt those expectations and spark conflict. When you remarry, your legal and financial responsibilities change, often in ways that impact how your assets are distributed upon death, unless you take specific legal steps like updating your will or creating a prenuptial agreement. Your new spouse may be entitled to a portion of your estate under default state inheritance laws. This can cause deep resentment among biological children who feel displaced or financially threatened by the new marriage. Blended families often involve complex interpersonal dynamics. Adult children may already have strained relationships with their parents, and bringing a new spouse into the mix can further fuel mistrust. They may worry that the new partner is influencing financial decisions or manipulating estate plans for personal gain, especially if the marriage seems rushed or driven by emotional vulnerability. This fear can lead to legal challenges, contested wills, and drawn-out probate battles that divide families permanently. Another major concern is the automatic transfer of assets. Many seniors don't realize that jointly held property or bank accounts will typically pass directly to the surviving spouse, bypassing the will entirely. This means that a new husband or wife could inherit everything, leaving the deceased's children with little to nothing, even if the deceased had verbally promised certain assets to them. Moreover, if the surviving spouse then rewrites their own will after inheriting those assets, there's no legal obligation to leave anything to the deceased spouse's children. In other words, the new spouse could inherit everything and later pass it on to their own biological children or relatives, completely excluding the stepchildren. These potential outcomes are not only financially devastating but emotionally traumatic. Families can be torn apart, lifelong relationships destroyed, and legacies lost, all because inheritance expectations weren't properly managed before remarriage. Estate planning tools, like living trusts, prenuptial agreements, beneficiary designations, and clearly written wills can help prevent these conflicts. However, many seniors remarry without updating their legal documents, either due to oversight, romantic optimism, or lack of legal guidance. One of the most emotionally complex consequences of remarrying after 70 is the impact it can have on relationships with adult children. Senior life experts frequently warn that bringing a new partner into the family at this stage can create deep feelings of alienation, resentment, or even hostility among children and grandchildren, especially if the remarriage is sudden or perceived as unnecessary. At the heart of this issue is a sense of loyalty and legacy. Many adult children feel a strong emotional attachment to the memory of their deceased or divorced parent. When the surviving or separated parent remarries, it can feel like a betrayal of that bond or a dismissal of their family history. Even if they don't express it openly, children may harbor quiet resentment, particularly if the new spouse appears to replace a beloved parent figure. Additionally, family roles and expectations are often well established by the time a parent reaches 70. Adult children are used to being the closest caregivers, advisors, or emotional support for their aging parent. When a new partner enters the picture, they may feel displaced or pushed aside. This can trigger fear, insecurity, and suspicion, especially if the new spouse takes over financial or healthcare decisions. Financial concerns often amplify these emotional tensions. Adult children may worry that the new spouse will influence decisions regarding wills, inheritance, property, or savings. If there are signs that the parent is spending more freely, changing legal documents, or giving the new partner access to finances. The children may feel their future is being jailed. One of the most serious and often overlooked consequences of remarrying after 70 is the potential for becoming legally responsible for your new spouse's debts and healthcare costs. While the emotional side of companionship is important, senior life experts emphasize the need for careful consideration of the legal and financial obligations that automatically come with marriage. Even late in life, marriage is not just a romantic union, it's a legal contract that carries binding financial implications. In many jurisdictions, when you marry someone, you may become legally liable for their outstanding debts, including medical bills, credit card balances, or even unpaid taxes. This means that if your new spouse has financial problems known or unknown, you could be held accountable, even if the debts were incurred before your marriage. The risk is especially high when it comes to healthcare costs. As people age, the likelihood of chronic illness, hospitalization, long-term care, or nursing home placement increases dramatically. If your spouse is uninsured, underinsured, or eventually qualifies for Medicaid, your income and assets may be taken into account when determining their eligibility. This is known as the spousal impoverishment rule, and it can lead to scenarios where one partner's medical needs consume the other's savings, leaving them financially vulnerable. In community property states such as California, Texas, and Arizona, spouses are considered jointly responsible for any debts acquired during the marriage, regardless of whose name is on the account. Even in non-community property states, healthcare providers and creditors can sometimes pursue the healthy spouse for payment under doctrines like the doctrine of necessities, which holds spouses liable for each other's basic living expenses, including medical care. This legal exposure can be especially damaging for seniors, who have spent decades building up their retirement funds, savings, and estate plans. One long-term illness or financial crisis involving a new spouse could rapidly deplete your resources, leaving you without a financial safety net in your most vulnerable years. Additionally, remarriage may affect your ability to qualify for certain government benefits or financial assistance. If your new spouse's income or assets are counted toward your household, you might lose access to programs like Medicaid, Supplemental Security Income (SSI), or subsidized housing. This is particularly concerning for seniors who depend on fixed incomes and have limited ability to re-enter the workforce. Fortunately, there are ways to mitigate these risks, but they require planning. Seniors should consider prenuptial agreements, keeping finances legally separate, and seeking professional legal advice before remarriage. In some cases, choosing a domestic partnership or cohabitation agreement may offer the companionship and shared living arrangement you desire, without the financial and legal liabilities of marriage. One of the less talked about, but deeply impactful consequences of remarrying after 70 is the potential loss of personal independence and lifestyle flexibility. At a time when many seniors are enjoying the freedom that comes with retirement, remarriage can introduce new responsibilities, obligations, and compromises that significantly alter their way of life. After age 70, most individuals have developed a clear sense of personal routines, habits, and preferences. They may have specific ways they like to spend their days, whether it's quiet mornings, travel, social engagements, or hobbies. One of the greatest benefits of this stage in life is the autonomy to make decisions without having to answer to anyone else. However, remarriage can disrupt that independence. Living with a new partner often means adjusting to someone else's schedule, needs, and expectations. This shift can be particularly jarring for seniors who have spent many years living alone or being widowed. Suddenly, their choices, from what time to eat dinner, to how they spend money, to how often they see family or friends, may require negotiation or compromise. These adjustments, while normal in any relationship, can feel burdensome when one is accustomed to full control over their life. Another layer to consider is caregiving responsibilities. As people age, it's common for one partner to develop health issues or mobility limitations. In remarriage, there is often an unspoken expectation that spouses will care for each other. While this may seem loving in theory, in practice it can be physically and emotionally draining. A senior who remarries may find themselves unexpectedly cast into the role of caregiver, managing medications, attending medical appointments, or even assisting with daily tasks. This can drastically limit their freedom, plans for retirement, and even their own well-being. Additionally, Remarriage may mean relocating perhaps to a different city, a different home, or even moving in with the new partner. This shift can result in separation from longtime friends, family, familiar doctors, and community activities that once provided joy and support. Social routines may change or be sacrificed altogether, leading to feelings of isolation or regret. The financial side of independence also plays a role. Some seniors may feel they need to consult or seek approval from their spouse before making purchases, taking trips, or supporting adult children or grandchildren financially. What was once a simple decision now becomes a shared one, adding complexity and sometimes tension for those who highly value their autonomy. These changes can be frustrating and, in some cases, overwhelming. That's why senior life experts often recommend exploring alternatives to traditional remarriage, such as companion relationships, cohabitation with separate finances, or legal agreements that maintain independence while still providing emotional intimacy. Remarrying after 70 can bring joy and companionship, but it can also make seniors more vulnerable to emotional and financial exploitation, especially if they are lonely, grieving, or physically and cognitively declining. Senior life experts consistently highlight this risk as one of the most serious and overlooked dangers of late-life remarriage. As people age, their emotional needs often intensify. Feelings of loneliness, fear of aging alone, or the desire for affection and attention can make seniors more susceptible to manipulation. A new partner, whether knowingly or unknowingly, may exploit these emotional needs for personal gain. This could include pushing for marriage quickly, influencing important decisions, or subtly isolating the senior from their children and friends. Unfortunately, romance scams and financial abuse are on the rise among the elderly. In some cases, a new spouse may have hidden motives, such as gaining access to assets, insurance benefits, or Social Security income. Seniors who marry without thorough vetting or legal protections may find themselves gradually handing over control of their finances, bank accounts, credit cards, wills, property titles, without realizing the long-term consequences. Even well-meaning partners can inadvertently cause harm. For example, they might convince the senior to change a will or trust, not understanding how that affects existing heirs, or they may encourage financial decisions that conflict with the senior's best interests, such as selling a home, gifting money, or investing in risky ventures. If the new spouse has debts or legal problems, the senior may unknowingly become entangled in those issues. Cognitive decline also plays a major role in exploitation. Seniors in early stages of dementia or memory loss are particularly vulnerable to persuasion and pressure. They may not fully grasp the legal implications of changing financial arrangements or granting power of attorney. A predatory spouse can use this confusion to gain control, often without the senior's full awareness or consent. The emotional toll of such exploitation is devastating. Seniors may feel betrayed, embarrassed, or helpless when they realize they've been taken advantage of. They may also fear losing the relationship, leading them to stay silent even when they sense something is wrong. This silence can delay intervention from family members, attorneys, or financial advisors. To protect against these risks, experts strongly recommend taking preventive steps before remarrying. These include conducting background checks, keeping finances separate, setting up prenuptial agreements, appointing a trusted financial guardian, and updating legal documents with the guidance of an elder law attorney. Family members should be involved in open, honest discussions about intentions and protections, not to interfere, but to ensure transparency. While remarriage after 70 may seem like the natural next step for those seeking closeness and emotional fulfillment, senior life experts often recommend considering companionship alternatives that provide meaningful connection without the legal and financial risks associated with marriage. These alternatives offer seniors the emotional support they desire, while preserving independence, protecting assets, and avoiding the complications of a legal union. At its core, what most seniors truly seek later in life is companionship, someone to share meals with, engage in conversation, go for walks, or provide emotional comfort. This doesn't necessarily require a marriage certificate. In fact, many older adults are now turning to non-marital relationships such as long-term cohabitation, platonic companionships, or committed partnerships without legal marriage. These arrangements provide closeness and daily connection without merging finances, estates, or legal responsibilities, One of the greatest advantages of these alternatives is the freedom to maintain financial autonomy. Seniors can keep their assets, pensions, social security benefits,